TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations.
Shalom and good evening, Erev Tov. I am Ayan Hassan and this is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. Israel and Germany enhance their strategic partnership in cybersecurity. The Islamic Republic of Iran claims it is prepared for war, amid rising prospects of an imminent American attack. U.S. President Donald Trump imposes 25% tariffs on any country doing business with Iran. Germany and Israel are enhancing their strategic partnership to include the recently signed agreement on collaborations in the cybersecurity domain, alongside other defense technology sectors. The cybersecurity agreement comes following a joint decision by Chancellor Friedrich Merz and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to expand the German-Israeli strategic partnership, focusing on 4 key areas. These include development of the next generation of a cyberdome, establishment of a cyber center of excellence, joint exercises and simulations in cybersecurity and artificial intelligence, and advancement of regulations in cyber risk management.
I attach enormous importance to the cooperation, overall cooperation between Israel and Germany, and especially Israel and Germany on this question of cybersecurity, which is one of the main threats to our internal security and in many ways also our infrastructure and other threats. And I think Germany and Israel are natural partners. We've cooperated on the Arrow 3. We've cooperated in many areas. We cooperate technologically. Chancellor Merz was here recently. We talked about defense cooperation. And now I'm very pleased to welcome a dear friend of Israel, Minister Dubrint, to sign this important pact. So thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your support. And please convey this to your government as well.
Meanwhile, in Washington, German Foreign Minister Johann Wadepool concluded a meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, during the course of which the 2 top diplomats discussed the evolving situation within Iran, with specific emphasis on the Ayatollah regime's deadly oppression of civilians demonstrating for the long-aspired freedom of tyranny. Following their meeting, Minister Wadepool called on the Islamic Republic to end its savage practices against innocent civilians.
We call on the Iranian regime to cease these measures immediately. On behalf of the federal government, I can emphasize once again that we will take all measures necessary to impose sanctions on this regime. This includes listing it under the European Union's terrorist sanctions regime. We have not yet been able to implement this because it requires unanimity within the European Union, but we remain committed to doing so.
It is important to highlight that Iran is attempting to lure the Trump administration into negotiations, in what Israeli officials adamantly believe aim to buy the regime time to persist in their brutal crackdown of Iranian civilians.
We do not seek war, but we are fully prepared for it. At the same time, as I have repeatedly said, we are also ready for negotiations.
Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says the regime is regaining control in the aftermath of the civil uprising, and that the internet and communication services will likely be restored soon, following more than 5 days of a near-total blackout.
From January 10th until today, we are in the next phase, in which the situation has come under control. I think the internet will be reopened soon, after full security control is established.
Meanwhile, according to President Trump's press secretary, the American leader likes to keep all options open.
Well, I think one thing President Trump is very good at is always keeping all of his options on the table, and airstrikes would be one of the many, many options that are on the table for the commander-in-chief. Diplomacy is always the first option for the president. He's told all of you last night that what you're hearing publicly from the Iranian regime is quite differently from the messages the administration is receiving privately, and I think the president has an interest in exploring those messages. However, with that said, the president has shown he's unafraid to use military options if and when he deems necessary, and nobody knows that better than Iran.
While circulating reports do indicate that President Trump is considering a variety of kinetic options to punish the regime for mass murder of Iranian civilians, the American leader has already announced a 25% tariff on any country doing business with Iran, a move further strangling Tehran's failing economy. Naturally, the country most impacted by the move is no other than China, which largely relies on Iranian energy products and is heavily invested in Iranian infrastructure.
China hopes that the Iranian government and people can overcome the current difficulties and maintain the country's stability. We have always opposed interference in other countries' internal affairs, consistently advocated that the sovereignty and security of all nations should be fully protected by international law, and oppose the use of force or the threat of it in international relations matters. We call on all parties to take actions conducive to peace and stability in the Middle East.
While China seeks to persuade the U.S. and other state actors against holding the Ayatollah regime accountable for the mass murder of Iranian civilians, the United Nations aims to remind Tehran that the right for public assembly is an inherent right that is enshrined in international law.
We issued a statement on Iran in which the Secretary General said he was shocked by the reports of violence and excessive use of force by the Iranian authorities against protesters in multiple locations across the Islamic Republic of Iran. This resulted in scores of deaths and many more injuries to protesters. All Iranians must be able to express their grievances peacefully and without fear of repression. The rights to freedom of expression, freedom of association, and freedom of peaceful assembly, as enshrined in international law, must be respected and fully protected. The Secretary General urges the Iranian authorities to exercise maximum restraint and to refrain from unnecessary or disproportionate use of force. He further urges steps to enable access to information in the country, including restoring communications links.
Meanwhile, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz announced that Berlin will consider adopting additional sanctions against the Islamic Republic of Iran, while voicing admiration for the bravery displayed by the Iranian people.
For 2 weeks now, we have seen more and more people from all walks of life taking to the streets across the country. They are demonstrating peacefully for freedom and for a better life in their country. And that is not only their right. These people deserve the utmost respect for their courage in resisting the disproportionate, brutal violence of the Iranian security forces. I call on the Iranian leadership to protect its people instead of threatening them. We condemn in the strongest possible terms the violence that the leadership in Tehran is directing against its own people. This violence is not a sign of strength, but rather a sign of weakness. The violence must end.
It is worth noting that the European Union, the Commission which was overly eager to sanction Israel in recent months, is now saying that member states are the ones responsible for advancing sanctions against the Islamic Republic over the murderous crackdown.
We do stand in full solidarity with the Iranian people, and we condemn the use of force against demonstrators. We are appalled by the reports of casualties. In terms of the sanctions that you have raised, we have a dedicated legal framework that is targeting perpetrators of serious human rights violations and abuses in Iran, under which a number of entities and individuals have been added over the years. So this is already in place. We stand ready to propose new, more severe sanctions following the violent crackdown on protesters. This is a decision for member states to take unanimously in the Council.
Meanwhile, in the United Kingdom, while Prime Minister Keir Starmer's government has condemned the Ayatollah regime's brutality, It continues to refuse to officially define the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps as a terror organization, despite its direct responsibility for the mass murder of Iranian civilians worldwide.
This government has already sanctioned Iran and the IRGC. We have used the powers that we have. Jonathan Hall, who is the independent evaluator of terror legislation, has said that the current legislation doesn't allow us really to prescribe in the same way we would for domestic terror. He's making recommendations, and we're looking really clearly about those recommendations and what it means for the legislation that comes in the future. The British government's position is very clear. It is a job of governments in all countries, and especially in Iran right now, to allow people to protest. It is a fundamental right. It is a right that people should be able to exercise. And what is happening in Iran now is wholly unacceptable.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to acknowledge all of TV7 Israel supporters. Your donations enable us to produce our daily news updates from Jerusalem. If you haven't yet supported TV7 Israel, please consider doing so. You can donate via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, I would like to encourage you to pray for the people of Iran fighting for their freedom, and also pray for the peace of Jerusalem and Israel. I am Mayan Hessen, wishing you an Erev Tov. Until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.